Hello and welcome back to What Self-Care Looks Like. I'm Brittany Elliott. I'm a self-care and mom life coach. And before I dive into this episode, I want to talk to you about the mental load. The mental load is the cognitive labor that goes into raising children and managing the household. And oftentimes, moms carry a heavier mental load than their partners. And to help you assess, then sort your mental load, I developed the mental load audit. It's a printable document that allows you to rank the items in your load by their importance, and it highlights who in your household is carrying the weight of each task. And then the audit is packed with reflective prompts and action items to really help you manage your mental load because that is very important. The audit is available at backtiyouin5.com/resources, and I will drop the link to it in the show notes. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to What Self-Care Looks Like. I'm Brittany Elliott. I am your self-care and mom life coach here to help you prioritize your needs and practice self-care in a meaningful way so that you can reclaim joy in your motherhood experience. And I'm very excited today to welcome Chari Twitty-Hawkins. She is here as our guest, so welcome, Chari. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I am gonna read her in, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit about her, read her bio, and then we're gonna talk about mom guilt, which I know a lot of y'all have been having questions about. You've been experiencing it, and Cherie is our expert on that today. So, Cherie is a certified life coach and transformational trainer. She loves inspiring women to thrive in their calling as mothers and wives while making themselves a priority through self care, self awareness, and self compassion. Cherie trains mothers through transformational speaking to help them realize they are seen and they matter too. She's also the author of Self Care Affirmations for Moms and Living Your God Inspired Purpose. She is a praying wife and mother of 4 children, including a set of twins. For Cherie, it was realizing that God had a purpose for her beyond motherhood that helped her truly find her joy. I love that. I love that. Um, because a lot of times I think that some women are struggling to find out like who am I now even outside of this motherhood role. So can you talk about your journey to learn what else your duties were going to be in this world?
All right, as you talked about, my twins, it started then. After I had given birth to them, I was in what I call mom zombie mode, and I was breastfeeding, making bottles, trying to get some sleep in. I had my husband with me, so that was super awesome, but it still was tough. And I felt like a zombie. I felt like I was just like, on to the next thing. And I got to this point where I was like, Cherry, I need you back. I need you. And I was just like, God, I need me. And I started first with making inspirational jewelry. I found out about this website called Etsy and I started looking on it and I said, oh, okay, maybe I can start making some jewelry. So I gave some to my friends and they were like, girl, you need to sell this. So I started selling it. And then I started to feel like God wanted more from me. So I'm like, okay. And then I start praying again because how many of y'all know that when you are not doing what God calls you to do, He will make you uncomfortable? So I just felt this sense of not being comfortable. I felt like I was letting everybody down, even though they may not have felt that way. That's how I felt. And I did an inspirational poem about living your God inspired purpose, which is the name of my first book. I did a poem about that at a conference and then went on to coaching and more speaking. And then first I was, as we talked about my book, Living Your God Inspired Purpose, first I was talking about purpose, purpose, purpose. Then God was like, no, I want you to niche down, like get more targeted with who you're speaking to. And I'm like, okay. And he was like, moms. And I said, okay, so I'm mom's purpose. And he was like, no, you need to get down to the basics. We can't tell them to live their purpose if they're not taking care of themselves. So that's where the self care came in. You basically making sure you're taking care of who you are so that you can bless your family. And that is actually part of your purpose.
I can relate so much to that mom zombiness that you were talking about. And it's so interesting because when you're in it, it's very hard to explain like what's happening. And I always tell people, it's like I was there. It's like I was watching my life happen from outside of it. And I just like couldn't grab hold of it until I really stepped back and started focusing on self-care. What has self-care looked like for you, and how have you been able to um, really help your clients cultivate self-care in a meaningful way?
For me, self care has looked like a lot of things. I often tell my clients that self care it's a holistic thing. It's not just spas, bubble baths. It includes those things, but that's just your physical self care. There is emotional. So when I'm feeling some kind of way, I take the time to cry. Like, I don't know if y'all, for those who are watching, see these grays, but I'm going through perimenopause. So that
Mm,
means even right now, I'm super emotional. And even just learning about perimenopause and being able to say, okay, this is part of it. What can you do to help yourself? You know, changing my diet, taking supplements. But when you're feeling emotional, if you're super irritated and you know you're going to go off on your husband, go somewhere.
mm,
Go somewhere and take your time. If you need to cry, cry. Whatever that is for that day. If you need to ask for forgiveness, I know I've been acting crazy. I'm so sorry. Do that. If I need to go take a walk, it looks like different things depending on. Sometimes I need to read. Sometimes I need to pray. It's sometimes I need to clean up my area. So my mind could be a little more relaxed, so I'm not thinking about all the clutter around me. It looks like many different things.
and I love that you give yourself space to be who you are and to be able to assess what you need in real time, because you're right, you're true. You're right, it does always change just depending on your mood, your energy, what you had to deal with that day. I mean, you can just have a rough night's sleep and just wake up and just not have it in you, all the plans that you had to tackle for that day. It's like, listen, I only have the energy to do this and show up how I am now. And I quote you often as saying, motherhood is a journey and self care is your compass. And that resonated with me so much when you posted that, because I'm like, yes, that is it. There are some big moments in motherhood and in self-care specifically that sometimes feel luxurious, but a lot of times it's just not. Motherhood is challenging and there are some really tough parts of it. So how do you manage those challenges of motherhood plus the challenges of womanhood and finding joy in all of like the chaos?
Excuse me. I love that you talked about the difference between or the separation of, even though it is as one, you being a woman and you being a mom. One big thing about self care, and I talk about, is that you are a woman first. So when you're able to think about, hey, yes, I'm having this tough time. Like I tell the story of when I found out my son had ADHD, and that school year was like one of the toughest school years I ever had. But what helped me get through it is to find my joy outside of being a mom.
Mm.
So when he was getting in trouble and he was worried about it, and it was his ADHD. So I didn't want to fuss at him or anything like that. But I had my joy outside of that. I had things, my crafting, I like to paint and things like that. And like I talked about, going for a walk and praying, talking to my friends, I was able to do the things that I like to do and things that fill my cup as a woman. That helped me to not be so consumed, even though I still was because it was tough. But I'm just being honest. Hey, motherhood is hard, but that helped me, not, I guess I would say, become depressed because of that. Because when you find out you have a special needs child, a lot of y'all know what I'm talking about. It's tough, especially when you don't know what you're doing. It's tough, but having that separation of, I'm a woman, what am I going to fulfill her? What am I going to do to fulfill Cherry, to make Cherry happy, so that this situation is not determining my mood That was, oh, that was a blessing, and that was so helpful.
Yeah, and I think that that is a really good segue into this thing that is mom guilt, right? Because we have all these things going on, and I feel like so many of us are not giving ourselves permission to hold tightly onto those things outside of motherhood that do bring us joy, because we start to feel like, well, am I neglecting my child by doing this? So, Cherry, please tell us, what is mom guilt? What causes it? What does it look like? Let us know.
Okay. So, mom guilt is feeling bad about something you did or didn't do. And there's so many different causes. I know you guys that are listening are thinking, oh, yeah. So it can be maybe you weren't there for your child. Maybe you feel like you said, you're neglecting your child. Maybe you yelled at them, just not meeting expectations that you have for yourself as a mom.
How can we work through our mom guilt as it comes?
Okay, so first is to acknowledge it because a
Mm,
lot of times, and you may be thinking, I do acknowledge it, I feel bad every day. But just to acknowledge, yes, I have these expectations that I have not met. And a lot of those expectations come from you wanting to be perfect.
mm,
I actually did a release mom guilt training, and I had the moms go into breakout rooms. And when they came back, I was like, if do you guys have anything that you would like to share? And the moms who were in one particular group, they said they realized that they were trying to be perfect.
mm,
And when you're trying to be perfect, you're not going to be perfect. The only perfect person I know is Jesus. So when you're trying to do that over and over, you are going to not succeed. And over, you're going to have guilt because you're not meeting those expectations. So changing those expectations of, no, I was not totally present. Like you talked about, you wake up and, you have a bad morning. You're like, look, this is all I can do. And being okay with this is all I can do. Being okay with that. Because a lot of times we're being so critical of ourselves as moms and our kids. I saw this TikTok this lady did. She actually did a series because it did so well, and she shared her thoughts. So she showed herself cleaning and she shared her thoughts. Oh, I can't believe I wasn't there for his game and all these things. And then they showed him playing and his thoughts. I love my mommy. She always does so much for me. And I said, oh my gosh, like that is so good because we're so critical of ourselves when really we should be saying, what did I accomplish today? Even if it's small, saying, my coach, Lisa Nichols, she says, celebrate your micro wins. That means
mm.
even the tiny ones, especially if you're sick or something like that. Celebrate. Did my kids eat today? Yes. Did I pick them up from school today and get them home safely? Yes. Are they happy? Yes. Did that dinner look exactly the way I wanted it to? No, but that's okay.
Mhm.
So showing yourself compassion, forgiving yourself for not being perfect, and shifting your mindset from I don't want to be perfect, but how can I be purposeful?
Ooh.
I say that often. How can I be purposeful? Purposeful. God put us on this earth to be purposeful, not to be perfect.
Gotta write that one down. I do. Because I am in a season, and I'm gonna take y'all on a magic carpet ride as I do with my listeners. But it's interesting because my daughter was just in here. She's not usually in here when I record, but she said that she was going to be quiet, and she is being quiet. But as we were talking, she came up to me and whispered, I forgot to clean my room like you asked me to do, right?" And so that for me, just in this moment, was like a micro win when I'm thinking of like all the bigger picture things and what I'm trying to teach her, and just when I'm doing the bare minimum, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I just had a bare minimum type of day. But really, all they need is the bare minimum, and us just continuously modeling for them what
Right.
good habits look like, and what love looks like, and what nurturing looks like. And I feel that in my work, like you're saying, so many women are chasing like this perfection or this high level of expectations that I don't even know who we are chasing. You know, what is it? Like, have you figured out, like, is there a TV mom we're trying to be like? Have you figured out who are we trying to be, Cherry? Who are we trying to
Hmm.
be?
Right. In my training, I said, so since we know that the issue is y'all trying to be perfect, answer me this: how many perfect moms do you know? I'll
Mm,
wait. None. Zero. That's all I saw in the comments. So I'm like,
mm.
that shows you're trying to reach something that is not realistic.
And we get stuck in a loop of chasing those unrealistic expectations. And there's always another expectation waiting. Even if you do create something and you're like, oh, I'm getting, really good at this.
Mhm.
Here comes something else. We're just always compounding something. I'm just like, give yourself a break, give yourself
Yes.
a break and, refocus on you. What are some ways that we can build activities into our self-care routine that will help us to overcome the guilt or even help us be able to acknowledge that there is guilt there?
Okay. So when you feel that guilt, really, even if you can take a few minutes and just really think about where's the root of this.
Mm,
Like, because there's good mom guilt, there is. So if you yelled at your child, okay, why did I do that? Was I angry? Was I disappointed? Was I sad? Was I hungry? But I'm just being honest. Was I sleepy? Did I skip a meal? And now everybody, or like with me, sometimes is it the perimenopause? What is the root of it? And what do I need to do next? Do I need to apologize? Do I need to go eat? Do I need to sleep? Do I need to sit down? And I apologize. Something I've been intentional about as a mom. I apologize, not every time, but a lot of times when I yell at my kids, I say, I'm sorry for yelling at you, and then explain why. And so after I do that, again, that self compassion, I forgive myself because I've taken action to make it right. So I don't keep beating myself up about it. And if it's something where you're thinking about, like I talked about, we got the holidays coming up, maybe everything doesn't look perfect the way that you want it to look. But asking yourself if you're feeling guilty about it, did the kids enjoy themselves? Did we create wonderful memories? Because a lot of times mess ups can become, you start laughing about it. That cookie was burnt. And everybody started talking about it. It's a joke. So if you're able to say, okay, that actually, though it isn't the way that I wanted it to be, because I'm trying to be in control and I want everything to look the way I want it to look. If we still had a good time, if everything's okay, if the house is still standing, being okay with that and forgiving yourself. That's really what's important to realize if the guilt is really valid, if it is, taking action to do what's right, apologize, whatever you need to do. And then if you're realizing, hey, because we talked about those unrealistic expectations, oh, I was tripping. We didn't have to go to the movies on Friday because we go every Friday and the kids are looking forward to that. We instead, which is something we did it at home. I went to the Dollar Tree, bought some little stuff I found out about on TikTok, and the kids had an amazing time. They had so much fun. And at the end, when are we going to do this again?
hmm
But if I had been, letting that mom guilt consume me, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy that and really appreciate, hey, it looks different than I thought it was going to look.
Yeah, I do that so often. And my way through that is a lot of times, be honest, is my husband. Like, he a lot of times is my mirror for that, to snap me back into the present, because that's what happens. I go into, well, in my mind it was going to be like this, and if it's not playing out in reality the way it was in my mind, like something's wrong, I missed something, or then I'm having a hard time being present and enjoying it. And so for me, just leaning on my partner and him knowing that about me too, he'll just say, hey, look around. Everyone's fine. We're having a good time. Let yourself enjoy what's happening right now. So I guess I would say to our listeners, sometimes you just need somebody else to shake you out of it. And I think that sometimes we feel guilty that we need someone to pull us out of it. But
That's
it's
not a
all like
bad
this
thing.
learning, and like how you're saying about this journey, we learn and we grow, and the things that did work don't work anymore now that we're, going into these different changes of life. So just really leaning into self-care as the compass, I think, is what makes the journey even more enjoyable too, because motherhood definitely shows me my flaws just as much as it shows me what I'm good at. So what's your advice for helping women just work through the flaws that you may have?
I just want to say, off of what you said, sometimes my husband does have to just, gently touch me on the back and say, "Babe, it's okay," because he sees me like spiraling. He's like, "It's okay, it's okay. Thank you so much for whatever you've done. We really enjoyed it." So yeah, don't feel bad because you need somebody. God did not want us to do this alone.
Mm.
He did not want us to do this alone. So just remember that. Um, and to be honest, I totally forgot your question.
I was just thinking, me too. What did I say, y'all?
I'm horrible today. Lord forgive me.
I said, what did we do? I don't remember. I think it was about when we are on a spiral, but now we're just going to go somewhere else with it because now I
Okay.
don't remember.
Okay. I'm sorry. I
Look at
just
us.
wanted to say
Look at us, colleagues in the self-care world, and we're just like,
that.
and but it's so, this is so real because I feel like, especially in the world of TikTok, Instagram, social media, like you always see just the polished, put out final production. And I'm gonna leave this in because I want y'all to see just really how life works. Like this is how life works. This is the real. This is us just working through life. And I was thinking of you heavily last night before bed because I had this moment where I got home from work and I was doing some cleaning. Like cuz I didn't get to it during the week. I didn't get to it last weekend. I'm looking around my house. I'm like, ugh, this is my priority right today. Do all this cleaning, get everything done. And then I was just beat. I was exhausted. And even my daughter said, like, okay, well, can we do this or that? And I said, I can't. Like, I just don't have the energy. And she said, well, you should have spent your energy not cleaning so that you can hang out with me, right? And I was like, well, I spent my energy wisely. I really did. I spent it on what really needed to be done. And this thing that you want to do now was really just like, whipped cream on the cake. It wasn't really, anything. We still got everything done. She read her story. And then at night, oftentimes she'll just lay in the bed with me because my husband works nights. And I was like, I actually need a break. And I'm just going to lay by myself and you lay by yourself. And she said, do you need a break from me? And I said, no, I just need a break to myself, just like not from anybody. I just need a break to myself. And, she was fine and she went to bed. Everything was fine. And then as soon as I started going to my room, I started feeling like a little bit of guilt started to creep up. And I'm like, what would Chari say? Because I didn't do I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do
Mhm.
anything neglectful. I wasn't unkind in speaking to her. Like everything was fine. But I just knew that one more thing, doing just one more thing would have put me over the edge. So how do you help women really think about like more of that forward thinking of it's not just about the moment right now. It's what energy you will have down the road and what you can do for your future self. How do you help us work through that?
Just so like you talked about, focusing on that, thinking about how is this going to help me? If I do not take this time, I'm going to be grumpy. I'm going to be snapping at people. I'm not going to be my best self. So saying to yourself, with those things, I'm going to feel more rested. I'm going to feel more relaxed. That means I'm not going to be short with the ones I love, which when I do that, what happens? How do I feel? Guilty.
Mm.
Guilty. So just focusing on that. What are those feelings that if you took some time to yourself to do whatever it is for you, something I always say, think about something that relaxes you or something that energizes you. So if you're like me and you love to dance and you're like, at this time, I'm going to have myself a little dance break. And then somebody comes in and you don't set the boundary of no, I have something to do, then what are you losing out on? When you dance, you let go of stress. You're more relaxed. You're happier. So when you don't say no, all of that goes away because you did not make time for that self-care. Or for me, when I talk about starting self-care, I say start small. You can start with journaling, or you can start with enjoying. I'm a tea girl, so, and I'm doing that because my tea is over there in the kitchen. But enjoying a nice warm cup of tea or coffee, then I'm able to breathe and center and practice gratitude. And that brings down my stress level. That makes me appreciate my life. But when I don't do that and I'm going, then that's when the stress builds up. Right. And we don't want that. So, really focusing on the benefits. I encourage you to write down, think about those things that you used to do. You can start with that. There's this lady, actually, that's her. She's a coach. I can't remember her title, but she's a coach that helps you have fun as a mom. And I was like, oh, that's cute. I love that. And one thing we definitely agreed on, thinking about when you were younger, what are things that you like to do that brought you joy? What are those things? And then write down how they made you feel. And if you really want those feelings again of being more confident, of being happier, of just feeling joy outside of motherhood, then you're going to make those things a priority.
Yes, I love that. Just remembering how things made you feel and really just getting back to that. And as my listeners know, it's all about getting back to you in five wellness points, 5 minutes a day, and just doing something that you can just refocus on reconnecting, because I feel like there are a lot of joys in motherhood and there are a lot of challenges. And one thing that people don't talk about is just how much of yourself you lose, especially in the beginning while you're trying to settle into motherhood. And then some people just feel like, well, that's just the cost of motherhood. I had to lose these pieces, and that's just not true. No one said that. That was never a rule that anybody gave, but we had it modeled that way so much. And I think you and I are just really fighting the good fight to show people, like, that's not what motherhood is. It's not what it should be. That's not what it has to be. Bringing our full selves into the fold, I think, makes it more enriching, not just for ourselves, but also for our children too. And so I appreciate all the work that you do, and I appreciate you being here with us today. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you for more support?
You can find me on my website, cicinspireme.com. You can find me, as you've heard me mention, TikTok, very active there, on TikTok and Instagram at cicinspireme. And you can find me on Facebook by searching, it's a little long, Chari Twitty-Hawkins, Mom Self-Care Coach.
Awesome. Well, Chari, thank you so much for being with us. And to our listeners, as always, I appreciate you so much. And I will talk to y'all soon. Thank you for listening to What Self-Care Looks Like. Again, I am Brittany Elliott, a self-care and mom life management coach. I help working moms change their approach to motherhood so they can feel vibrant, empowered, and fulfilled in their motherhood journey. My group coaching program, Reconnect, is built around the 5 wellness pillars that will help you feel the most whole as you balance your motherhood role with your personal needs. So be sure to check in with yourself using the free wellness quiz at backttoyouin5.com/quiz.